So today we're making one of the ultimate comfort food recipes, chicken and dumplings. And there's a reason why so many people love this recipe, because it's creamy, you got the nice biscuit type texture in the dumplings, you got chicken in there, you got vegetables. You guys are definitely gonna wanna try this, and we're almost at 100,000 followers. I think I'm like 100 followers away. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get to cooking. Okay, so chicken and dumplings. Here are the ingredients you're gonna need. Just like any soup, you need the onions, the celery, the carrots, the garlic. We're gonna use a little bit of flour to thicken our soup. You need a good quality chicken stock. We're gonna use a little bit of milk. And then I have some poultry seasoning over here. This is optional, but I like to add it in the chicken and dumplings. We're also gonna add some frozen peas, and I also have some chicken breasts over here. You can use chicken thighs, you can use a whole chicken, whatever you wanna use. You just need some kind of chicken for this recipe. Now, for our dumplings, we have some flour. We also need some milk. We have some baking powder, we have butter. Now we're not gonna use all this butter, but we do need a good amount of butter for this recipe. I also have some bay leaf and some thyme over here. You need a good Dutch oven or a good 6-quart pot for this as well. And then the basic stuff, salt and pepper, a little bit of oil. I do have some dry sherry here that we're gonna use to deglaze the pot. If you don't wanna use the wine, you don't have to, you can leave it out. You can also use Chardonnay if you like. So we're gonna go ahead and start this recipe off by searing off our chicken. Okay, so we have our Dutch oven on medium heat. We're gonna add a little bit of oil, not too much, just to sear our chicken. And then we're gonna season our chicken breast with just a little bit of salt and black pepper. We'll season the other side once it hits the pan. And then once that oil is hot, we're gonna go ahead and add in our chicken, season side down. We're gonna press down slightly to make sure we get a good sear. And then we're gonna season the other side with a little bit of salt and black pepper. And we're gonna let this chicken sear for about 3 minutes on this side. Okay, so it's been 3 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and give our chicken a flip. We got a little sear on there. Now we're gonna let this go for another 3 minutes on this side. So now to finish cooking this chicken, we're gonna place them on this baking sheet, and we're gonna place this into the oven set to 350 degrees for about 7 minutes or so, or until the chicken is cooked to about 155 degrees Fahrenheit internally. So now we're gonna reduce the heat of the pan to medium low, and as you can see, we got some beautiful fond on the bottom of our pot here. We're gonna add in about 4 tablespoons of butter, and then once that butter is melted, we're gonna add in our onion, our carrots, and the chopped celery. Now the reason we can add this all at the same time is because I'm not looking for caramelization. We're just looking to sweat the vegetables for this dish. And as you can see, those onions are starting to lift the fond right off the bottom of the pot. We're gonna add all that nice flavor into our soup. We're gonna season these veggies with a nice pinch of salt and black pepper. Now we're gonna let this go for probably around 3 minutes or until we see everything start to sweat and come together. So it's been a few minutes. Our vegetables are starting to sweat down here. At this point, we're gonna add in the garlic. It's about 4 cloves of garlic. We're gonna add in about a tablespoon of poultry seasoning, a sprig of fresh thyme, and then 2 bay leaves. We're gonna give that a stir for about 30 seconds or until we begin to smell that garlic. Then we're gonna go in with a few tablespoons of flour. That was probably around a 1/4 cup of flour right there. And we're just gonna mix this into the vegetables and let that cook for about a minute or two. At this point, we're gonna go in with about a 1/4 cup of our wine. If you're not using the wine, you can use the chicken stock at this point. Once that wine is nice and soaked up by the vegetables, we're gonna go in with our 4 cups of chicken stock. And this is just room temperature stock. Now we're gonna continue to stir to make sure there's no lumps of flour in this, and we're gonna bring this to a gentle simmer. So I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. So now the soup is simmering. It took about 5 to 7 minutes or so to come up to a simmer. You just wanna go ahead and make sure nothing is sticking to the bottom. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna add in our 2 cups of milk. We're just gonna go ahead and stir this in. And I can always adjust the thickness of this later with a little bit of cornstarch. I'm gonna go ahead and add the frozen peas now. It's about a cup or so of frozen peas. The chicken is just about cooked through. Not all the way, it's almost done. We're gonna add it in now. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and place this over here on the stove, and I'm gonna let this continue to simmer for a few minutes, probably around 6 to 10 minutes or so, while we go ahead and make our dumplings. So now for the dumplings, it's pretty simple actually. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour here. We're gonna add a teaspoon of some salt right to our flour. We're gonna add a nice big pinch of black pepper, and then this is 4 teaspoons of baking powder. We'll go ahead and mix this up. Make sure all the dry ingredients are well incorporated into the flour. And then we're gonna make a little well here right in the center. We're gonna add in our 4 tablespoons of melted butter. And then this is 3/4 cup of milk. We're just gonna go ahead and mix this in. Just add it slowly. We'll let the flour incorporate with it. So now we're not making bread, we're making dumplings. So we don't want this to be super glutinous, right? I just want this dough to come together. So we're just gonna keep mixing it here until a nice shaggy dough is formed. Now if your dough starts to look a little dry like this, We're just gonna add a splash of milk, just a little bit. So now this is what we want. We have a nice shaggy dough here. I'm not gonna play with it too much. I don't want gluten to form. So we're just gonna go ahead and let this hang out, and then we're gonna add these dumplings to our soup. So our soup has been simmering for probably around 6 to 10 minutes, however long it took us to make our dumplings. So now what we have to do here is we have to season this now, and we have to adjust the consistency, because by the time we add the dumplings, we're not gonna be able to season this. So as you can see, our soup is thick, but I want it a little bit thicker. Like, you don't want it to be as thick as like a sausage gravy, but you don't want it to be super thin like a soup. So we want it to be a little bit thicker than this. So in order to do that, what I have here is a little bit of cornstarch and cold water. It's about a teaspoon or so, maybe 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. The ratio is usually about 2 to 1. So if you're using 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, you're gonna use 2 teaspoons of cold water. Your soup needs to be simmering, and then we're gonna add this cornstarch just so it gets the consistency I'm looking for. Now when you add the cornstarch, you wanna immediately stir to evenly distribute it throughout the soup. Okay, so I like this consistency a lot better. See, as you can see, it's kind of like a very thin gravy, which is what I want. So now we have to go ahead and taste this for salt. Make sure our seasoning is good. Tastes really good. It does need a little bit more salt and pepper. I can taste that poultry seasoning. It tastes very good. So we're gonna add just a little bit of salt, because like I said, I'm not gonna be able to season it after the fact. A little bit of pepper as well. Let's go ahead and stir that salt and pepper into our soup, and then we'll go ahead and taste it again. That's perfect right there. So let me show you how we're gonna add these dumplings now. You're gonna take 2 spoons, and you're just gonna make the dumplings about this size before you drop them into the soup. So we're just gonna go ahead and drop these in, and you're gonna see though, this is gonna cover the soup, and then it's gonna basically triple in size. Like, each dumpling is gonna get a little bit bigger. Just go ahead and keep adding them in. Don't worry about being perfect. You can also use your hands if that's easier for you. So now these dumplings are gonna start to puff up. So what you have to do, you're gonna cover this with the lid, and we're gonna let this simmer for at least 15 minutes so that the dumplings are cooked all the way through. All right, so it's been 15 minutes, and as you can see, our dumplings have tripled in size. Now you gotta make sure they're cooked all the way through. So what you're gonna wanna do, you wanna scoop out one of these dumplings, and you wanna check just to make sure the dough is all the way cooked through. So now that our dumplings are cooked, this chicken and dumplings is done. We're gonna go ahead and serve this up, and then we're gonna try it. And there it is, just like that. That's our chicken and dumplings. Let's go ahead and give it a try. This is incredible. This reminds me, it's snowing outside. There's tons of snow on the driveway. You gotta go out there in a blizzard and shovel the driveway. You come back in, you eat a bowl of this, put on a Christmas movie, you're in heaven, I'm telling you right now. Check the weather. As soon as you think it's gonna snow, you wanna make this. Our dumplings are cooked perfectly. They almost have like a biscuit type texture, a little bit denser. You taste a little bit of that sage that's in the poultry seasoning. If you don't like sage, don't use the poultry seasoning, but I highly recommend it. Overall, this is just a delicious and excellent comfort dish that everybody needs to try. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you learned something, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.